Welcome to episode 82 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week, we play Gato Roboto. For all things Left Behind Game Club, don't forget to check us out on our website at leftbehindgame.club or leftbehindgameclub.com, on Twitter at leftbehindclub, and on Instagram at leftbehindgameclub. After you've listened, if you like what you heard, feel free to give us a 5-star review on whatever podcasting platform that you use. On this week's episode, we find ourselves embodying KiKi the Cat to go on a wild space-traveling adventure. Let's get right into it. You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club. Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Chicken McCord, and today I have 3 friends with me. First off, the friend that you know, the friend that you probably love, our chief guns officer at the Left Behind Game Club. His name is Mo Murtati.
But for this podcast, it's Meow Murtati. I tried.
Oh my... I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting that. Our other 2 friends are from the Player podcast. First off, I will introduce the Hoop Man himself, Joseph Hooper. Joseph, welcome.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm glad to be here.
We are so glad to have you and your partner in crime. He is the Ursher baby of the Player podcast. It's Arsene Lakpa.
Thank you so much for having me on today, and let me go ahead and give you guys my confessions.
Oh boy, here we go.
That was so good.
Very smooth.
But just to explain, why are you Ursher baby?
Because I am from Atlanta, Hotlanta, as all the people from Atlanta call it. So if you come to Atlanta, be sure every 10 seconds, every 10 minutes maybe, make sure you slip in Hotlanta into your conversations.
It's a tradition.
It's a tradition, yep. You won't get beat up, I promise.
This is not a podcast about Hotlanta. It is a podcast about video games. And today we're talking about a great one. It is Gato Roboto, developed by doinksoft, published by Devolver Digital, released originally for the Switch and Microsoft Windows on May 30th of 2019. Gentlemen, if you had to summarize what Gato Roboto is very succinctly, how would you do that?
Cute.
Yep,
that's
a cat's journey to liberate himself or herself. I don't know the gender.
That's deep.
Yeah, I think essentially, if I was going to explain it to someone who's looking to play it, I'd say it's a platformer where it's like, I guess, 2 colors. In this situation, it's black and white, where you play a super space invading cat that is able to drive a mech and blast things out of his way to eventually solve a mystery / weird story that wasn't that satisfying.
Well, if you want to get technical, I guess that's what it is. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Well, in this game, the story itself is not kind of what you come for. So if you're worried about having the story spoiled for you, you don't have to worry. There may be light spoilers here, but it's not the focus of what we're doing. Before we get into the actual game itself, I need to know, what did you guys know about Gato Roboto when I said, hey, let's play Gato Roboto for this podcast?
I think for me, it was definitely a game that was on my list of like games where I'm like, okay, I like metroidvanias. I'm a big fan of that genre, so I really wanted to, sink my teeth into it. But then I heard that it was kind of a short game, so I definitely put it on my back burner. Wasn't really planning on playing it anytime soon, until you guys obviously brought it up for discussion. And I also heard there was like a completely like game-breaking bug that would cause players to need to like restart their games or something, and have to delete their save. This was like early on in like before they fixed the patch or something. And it was like, yeah, you fall into this one room, you can't get out. You just can't leave. You gotta restart the game.
No.
That's tragic.
So that was another reason why I definitely was like, all right, I think I'll wait.
Joseph, what did you know about the game?
I knew absolutely nothing. I knew it was about a cat in a robot suit, and that was about it. I remember when it came out, and people were like, "Oh yeah, this game is like cute. This game is fun. Oh, like we should all play that." And I never heard about anybody ever playing it, so I also never played it. But I had it in the library from the Twitch free games deals that they always do. So I was ready to go.
And Mo, what did you know about this game before we started?
Oh, it's going to be an echo in here. I knew nothing about the game. I think the only thing I assumed was it was like similar to like that Mr. Roboto song just because it rhymed, but based off of nothing whatsoever. I knew it was about a cat, but that's literally after I searched it. If you came up to me like a month ago and said, "Do you know what Gato Roboto would be?" I'm like, "Is it an anime? I don't know." So nothing, absolutely nothing. I don't think I've ever seen a promo for it or anything. The only thing I knew was Jacob wanted me to play it for the podcast.
Yeah. And I actually found out about the game because of Brian Altano. I listen to a Nintendo voice chat occasionally, and they had gone through the best Switch games you may have missed for 2019. And Brian spoke very highly of Gato Roboto in saying that, hey, it's on Switch, it's on PC, but it's like super short. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's got a cool art style, and that's Gato Roboto. So I was instantly in. And I'm actually really glad I played it. So before we get into describing what this game is in detail, I played it on Switch. How did you guys play Gato Roboto?
PC
as well.
Yeah, I was on PC, but I wish I was able to play it on that Switch, because it seems like one of those games that are perfect for the Switch. You can just pick up for like a couple minutes and drop and move on with your life and come back to.
Yeah,
sure.
I think that's like a very, like, that is how I played it. I think that, like, this game has frequent saves, and, you know, you may die a little bit, but you're probably not dying a ton. But I could play this game in, like, 10-minute chunks, and I think I must have played it, no joke, over, like, 20 sittings. Like, it was a nice, beautiful, bite-sized game that if you're looking for something to play 10 minutes at a time, this is it.
Man, I died a lot. I don't know about anyone else, but...
I'm sure we'll talk about that, but some of those boss fights, oh boy, I was not ready.
Boss fights is what really got me.
I needed YouTube help with that one.
All right, so that's kind of what the gameplay style is. So it's a Metroidvania style game. You play as a cat named KiKi. The cat is named KiKi. A tweet from Devolver Digital from May 29th of 2019 confirms that. But it's very much like, if you've played Super Metroid, this is almost like a ROM hack of Super Metroid.
I haven't played any of the Metroid games, actually. Is it like exactly the same story, or is it just mechanics and like it's a robot suit? It's
mechanics that are very similar, except in this case, you play as KiKi, who's this adorable little cat, and she gets in this robot suit that you can actually get in and out of at any time. You have your basic, like, Mega Man blaster, you have some missiles, and then you get more and more power-ups as the game goes on. But with Metroid, you can get into a ball at some points and get into smaller areas, but you actually can't get out of your suit. Very similar structure-wise, and then even the story, like, is very, very bare bones and simple, much like Super Metroid.
Interesting. I don't know if I made that comparison. I remember playing Metroid. I don't remember what one exactly, but I do remember playing one on the DS a long time ago. But for some reason, this game seemed very, like you said, very, very bare bones. Like, although it is a Metroidvania, I didn't really find many comparisons to any other games that I've played in the past, just because I was like, oh, this is kind of like a pet project that turned into a real semi-successful game. And I can see where it takes inspiration from things, but I don't know. It just didn't feel super fleshed out in terms of, like, it seemed like it was almost there. Like, it's really like, oh, you pick up this weapon, you kind of go back here, but for the most part, it still seemed pretty linear for me personally. But I don't know what you guys think about that.
I thought the same thing. It's very, if I could say, like, the stereotypical indie style game where, like, you wouldn't find someone wanting to, like, buy this for, let's say, X amount of dollars, let's say $10 or more. That's when it's like, maybe it's not really worth it, because there's other platformers that are pretty high level, like some of the what's it called, the Willow and the Ori and the Blind Forest games.
Ori and the Blind Forest, yeah.
For some reason, just maybe because it's the art style that helps a lot, or the fluidity of the movements, or the interactions, those types of games are like, wow, that's like a beautiful artistic work. I think it's because it's flat, two-dimensional, two pretty much color codes throughout the entire game. That's when you kind of go, okay, I'm not really getting that much for it. So that's why it kind of seems a little unfinished, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not unfinished, but maybe like had a very, very small scope.
Yeah, sorry, not unfinished. Yeah, just it's a pet project.
Yeah, this game is, you know, if you purchased it on Switch, I think I got it for like under $13. Like, it was very short. It's a 4-hour game that starts off with your owner, I guess, Gary, who crashes his ship on a planet, and what I found in this game is some of the writing was actually, like, pretty clever and, like, made me giggle at sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But your ship crash lands, and what you have to do is get this suit, and then go through multiple parts of this kind of uncharted world in order to basically move through it. Like, there's little to no story explanation of, like, you know, you just have to move, you have to unblock like an aqueduct, you have to like cool down a room, and then obviously as you're doing all of this stuff, you have to defeat the bosses that are in your way.
Right, and I guess another key point to that is like we were answering a distress call or something like that. So we ended up crash landing near like this old military lab or something of the sort,
cat, wasn't it?
Right. So
yeah.
we're like we're exploring this once populated military facility.
I think, Jacob, sorry, just to go back to your story point, how like it was very well written. For me, I felt like it was a game made for and like by like cat people, if that kind of makes sense. Like, like, and when I say cat people, I'm not saying it in like a derogatory or like a way like that. I'm just saying you know the type of people that like if they see any cat video, they have to stop and watch the whole thing and then show people.
Oh my goodness.
Like someone playing. Like, those types of people I think would love this because of the dialogue. It's like the cat only responds with meow, and then the guy like laughs. It's like, come on, cat. It's like meow. And I could just, I like cats, but I'm not going to consider myself a bunny quotes cat person. I think if I was, I'd be like, ah ha ha, laughing, enjoying it the whole entire way.
Yeah, Arsene, are you a cat person?
I think I do consider myself a cat person. I'm kind of like on the fence right now between cats and dogs, but oh yeah, I was really vibing with that with the dialogue. Like,
yeah,
like I definitely agree with Mo on this one.
That it was occasionally funny, but you could tell like, hey, this is for cat people.
Oh yeah. Like, I feel like if you don't like cats, I don't think, like, obviously I feel like, first of all, why the hell are you playing a game called Gato Roboto? Like, I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely kind of has a bit of a target towards those cat
Aren't you
folks.
allergic to cats?
I mean, like, I have like all types of allergies, bro. So
yeah, I feel like even people that have like lactose intolerance will still dabble in a little ice cream if it's
exactly.
Before kind of we get into the story beats, like, someone mentioned boss fights, and how some of them were incredibly difficult. I think the boss fights were like the coolest part of this game.
Agreed.
Do you have any highlights for like your favorite boss fights without going into the final one?
So yeah, I'm just gonna start off by. I mean, I liked all the boss fights. You know, I thought they were really interesting whenever you ran into, particularly the mouse guy, but all the kind of sub bosses were kind of cool too. But I promise you, I think it was like on the aqueduct level or like the second mouse boss fight where he's like in the spaceship and there's claws and missiles coming at you. I'm playing it and like so far it's not too hard. Like I'm chilling. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna knock this thing out in a couple hours. And then I'm fighting this guy with all these missiles, and it kind of becomes a bullet hell, and I'm like, wait a second. And then you hear this? This was me. I was just smashing that button, bro. Like, I was like, my hands were cramping up, and it took me about 30 minutes to get past that guy. No joke.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I definitely had to like look up like strategies or watch someone beat it and kind of figure it out. Well, one, because I'm not really a guy that plays a lot of platform games, like the side-by-side Mario style metroidvania stuff. I just struggle with them, and I get frustrated if I can't like make that jump twice and have to reset to another location. I'm about to snap whatever console I have. I don't rage quit in any game but platformers, because when I hit that wall, I'm just like, oh my god, like, not worth my time. I get angry. And luckily, those YouTube content creators saved my life, and they're like, oh no, it's fine, just find a pattern and you'll be able to get through it.
Yeah, and for me, like, just enumerating what they were, there's like a submarine mouse, there's a spider mouse, there's an air mouse, and then the last mouse is the
lava mouse.
Yeah, that one. And
that was my least favorite.
Yeah, for me it was that air mech where like you have to. So in addition to the main robot, there's a submarine robot, and there's also like a turret robot.
Yeah,
and they aren't as good as the regular robot because, one, they have less health, or they don't have any health.
Or you're stationary.
You're stationary, and they're not upgradable, right? So for the air mouse, for the air mech, this mech has like a rotating shield that's going around it. So you have to get into these stationary turrets, avoid this mech going around the very small stage, and there's a bridge on top. It was like it took me at least, like you said, half an hour to do that one. I just kept watching the game clock, which is on your display the entire time.
Just mocking
keep
you,
going up.
It's like, just mocking you. It just keeps going.
Suck at video games.
Wow, that's actually surprising to hear, because I thought that particular fight was like one of the easier mouse fights. I don't know. I think I was just traumatized by that water. It wasn't water. It was like whatever the
water one was the one with like the bullet hell.
Whatever they're shooting the missiles, I was just traumatized by that one, because I was like, dude, my finger cannot go fast. I cannot dodge all these things. So once I basically just spammed like the little turret thing. Like whenever it was ready to shoot, I just shot it, and it was, I knocked that one out pretty quickly. So that's interesting to hear.
So we talked about the robot a little bit. We talked about the turrets. Did you like the submarine that you could get, kind of the third vehicle that you could get in this one?
I was kind of on the fence. Like, I kind of like the mobility of like using the regular robot, or particularly like the cat when you're running around freely. So I was indifferent. Like when I was in the submarine, it wasn't really that much of I wasn't super stoked about it. I kind of like the shooting mechanics of having the robot shooting a rocket and shooting the regular gun.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing like how, like, Arsene, did you think these bosses were hard? Because I feel like when it comes to like these bullet hell type things, like you're way better than I am. So particularly, like, did you feel like you were struggling at any point or anything like that?
I felt like for each of the bosses in the game, it definitely took me a couple of tries, except for I think like the one that you were talking about, like the one with that bridge and like the turret boss. I think that one was a bit more straightforward for me. I thought the bosses in this game were super weird because, you got the regular gameplay of the game is very, I don't know, I would describe it as easy. You're not really struggling to like platform throughout different areas and fight regular enemies. Then like it's such a difficulty spike when I'm like especially on the first boss, I died like I did not expect to die like at all, and I died like I think I only died once, but still I just didn't expect that death. I was like, wait a minute, why would I die here? Like I did not expect that whatsoever. But yeah, I think that the bosses were definitely a lot tougher than I really did expect, especially that lava guy.
Have you guys played Super Meat Boy, or anyone played Super Meat Boy by any chance?
A little bit, yeah.
So I was tricked by Mike Ruffalo, one of our other hosts that's on the podcast, to try it out way back when. Didn't know what it was. He's like, oh, it's just a game. You can try it out. It's very popular. So I gave it a shot, and I've never like deleted a game off my hard drive so fast because of how difficult it was. And as soon as I saw spikes on the wall, I literally started getting like PTSD from Super Meat Boy. I'm like, no, is this going to be Super Meat Boy Volume 2? What did Jacob do? Why did he send me this? Luckily, it's a little bit easier to make your jumps and traverse throughout everywhere, so thank goodness, man, because I didn't want that in my life anymore.
Yeah, and once you kind of make your way through, so if you've played a Metroidvania before, imagine the same style map where like it's a pretty decently sized map with maybe on one level, like say that there's 6 levels in this game, maybe there's 30 or 40 rooms. Once you beat a room once, if it's locked, it unlocks, and you never have to go through, like if you're passing and like retracing your steps, you can just run through the room and not beat guys up.
Thank goodness.
It's not particularly tough outside of the boss battles, but as someone who is currently slowly playing Celeste, I feel your pain, Mo.
Yeah. Speaking of that, though, like I kind of was getting, I don't know if I'm being too particular or anything, but I was getting annoyed that the actual monsters kept respawning whenever you entered a new location. For some reason, I just wanted that ability to be like, okay, I already been through here. I don't have to like keep running through it. I want to say the second half of my playthrough was mostly like just dodging everyone and just running through to get to the other side. Like watching that map, following a walkthrough, and just, I'm not trying to fight anyone. I don't want to die. Just zip through as fast as I could.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like pretty like on board with that one as well. Like I think I don't know. I just think that the enemies they were just kind of annoying. You really did not want to like after you kind of faced a couple of them. Okay, I get the difficulty here and there. But yeah, I was just done with it just like you.
I had one enemy I kind of enjoyed, and I don't know what it was. I think it's like the OCD of like, it's the drill guy. Essentially, if you kind of get in front of him and he destroys like a platform of bricks to help you like get to a new location, it just gave me that satisfaction of like, you know, when you're vacuuming and you like clean one spot and it's spotless. For some reason, it was like a robot for me. You just point in a direction and you kind of clean that one little spot for you.
Your own Roomba.
Yeah, nightmare to destroy, but those guys for some reason were super satisfying for me.
Did you find any of the weapons in the game were very satisfying, or any of the power-ups? Because I think some of the power-ups, like if you played a Metroidvania game, they're very like common and generic. But I really liked, for example, how the spin jump really changed your mobility once you got it. What were some of your guys' favorite upgrades?
Of course, the guns, man. No, the repeater. When your gun becomes like a super rapid fire, almost chain gun, that kind of made me complete. I'm in a mech, but I have like a 22 caliber pistol with me. Like, what's going on? So once you get that one, you're kind of like, okay, now I got firepower.
Yeah, I like the standard missile. Like, just one hit KOing like most of the enemies that were in the game until you got like towards the back half. I was like, oh, this is pretty chill. I used the missile probably 80% of the time. I completely stopped using the repeater almost once I got like the extra cooldown, so I could shoot 3 missiles before getting overheated. So that was definitely my favorite weapon, because it was just like, I felt pretty strong with that one.
In terms of power-ups, I wouldn't go for a weapon as my favorite. I kind of liked the ability that you get. I think it's when you get all 14 of the cartridges, that allows you to dash, or like, I guess I think it was when you get the dash that recharges your spin jump, which basically gives you like infinite jumps. And I was like, whoa, like, sure, I'm already, you know, about to fight the final boss. I have no need for this whatsoever. But I just really like that ability, just to be able to use that as like a mobility tool. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I'm with you. The spin, for me, the spin jump was my favorite, but you touched on like getting cartridges. Do you want to kind of explain what that power up is? Yeah,
so the cartridges in the game, you kind of find them hidden. They're kind of like the collectible of Gato Roboto, and what they would allow the players to do would be to go into your settings and basically change the color palette, or the, I guess, whatever color code, however you want to describe it, of the game. So you could have game colors that would be, I don't know, like a pink and blue color scheme for the game, or like, you know, yellow and blue, yellow, green, whatever, which isn't really is purely cosmetic, doesn't really change anything for the game. But I thought it was cool to just be able to have the option to switch up the look. I found a favorite. I don't even exactly remember the name of it or what it looks like now that I'm thinking back, but I did find a favorite, like kind of like partially through the game, that I just like stuck with it. I was like, all right, sure, you're offering me these other ones, but nah, I'm sticking with this one.
I used urine for a long time.
I was dying. I'm like, are they really just do this? Just a like, urine color palette?
Sold. Say nothing. Say nothing
Disgusting.
else.
Disgusting. I didn't change my color palette. I kept it black and white. But
really?
I don't know about you guys, but I think maybe we've been spoiled just with like other games being colorful and bright and like easy to identify. I sometimes got lost in like what was like, I shouldn't say got lost. It was I had to like focus really hard to kind of figure out where to navigate, where to go, because everything was just one color palette and nothing really stood out. Luckily the enemies moved, but if any of them were stationary, I feel like they'd almost be hidden. Some of the boxes I didn't know were destroyable until like I accidentally would shoot one. It was almost like, maybe it was a challenging aspect of the game because it's just 2 different color codes. You have to kind of be paying attention to figure out where you're going.
You know what this game kind of reminded me of look-wise? Have you guys seen the Playdate console?
Yeah,
Ooh,
we played
it. Yeah.
Did you say you played it?
Yeah, PAX.
Oh, snap. Okay, so do you want to explain what the Playdate is?
Yeah, so the Playdate is this yellow Game Boy looking dude that has a crank on the side. And there's literally a crank on the side, and you use the crank to incorporate into the game. So, for instance, at PAX, we played this game where you use the crank to progress time, and then like you're going through the story by cranking, but like the speed that you crank at affects the gameplay and stuff like that. So it's a very quirky console, but it's pretty cool, I guess. Not worth
Did it ever come out?
$200, but I don't know, actually.
It's coming out of this year, so we will get it alongside the games that come with it. But Well, hopefully we'll get it. But
I just Googled it now, and as soon as you said $200, I closed the tab.
Was it? I was just throwing. I think it's
like 150, 129 or something.
I remember
it's 150 US.
Okay, I remember hearing the price and being like, I don't know about that, but I mean, even still, 150. That's a pair of sneakers. I don't know.
But I think it's fair to say that the art style of the Playlink is almost identical to the Gato Roboto art style.
Sure. Yeah.
And I enjoyed the art style personally. I kind of liked, going in, I kind of figured that once you saw that first screen where it's like, okay, 8-bit, got this quirky, cartoony looking cat and this Jimbo looking guy, I don't know, I was like, okay, I know what kind of game this is. So I like the kind of dopey, kind of cartoony, Undertale-ish kind of art style. Undertale, I'm not trying to throw shade on Undertale. That's a masterpiece upgrade worth of an art style, but I thought it was fun, simple. I don't know.
Okay, because I thought you were about to come on this show, and after you did, you make a bunch of crap about Sonic the Hedgehog,
cancel Sonic,
and then you make a bunch of crap on your show about the Wii U. I thought you were about to make a bunch of crap about Undertale.
No, Undertale's one of the greatest games. One of the greatest games. Come on now, I would never disrespect Undertale or put that in the same
I would have
category
left the Player
as Sonic
podcast if you said that.
So we've kind of talked about the art style. We've talked about the gameplay on a high level, some of the upgrades you can get. Do you guys want to talk about kind of how the game ends? Because I think that, apart from getting a little story dump at the beginning and some little bit of story throughout, the game kind of goes to a bit of a weird place in the end of it.
So before we get to the end, I just want to say, I want to throw this out here, and I want to see if you guys have the same thoughts. Throughout the game, I was really hoping. I was like, oh man, we're getting Undertale vibes where this game on the surface seems so lighthearted, so fun, but I'm like, is there something? Are they going to drop a bomb on us?
I thought the same, yeah.
They kept giving us hints, and I'm like, oh man, this is about to go deep at the end. I'm ready. I am so ready. And then, went out with a fizzle, not a bang. And I was like, okay, it was fun, but you guys could have did something crazy at the end here.
Yeah. Maybe we had the same moment, but I think it was it when the rat was kind of saying you have no idea what's about to happen to you, you don't understand what's you're doing kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was that dialogue point right there, and I'm like, oh no, I don't know what's going on. I thought it was just a cat.
What's going to be down there?
Yeah, I'm like, what's really happening? Am I gonna is something bad gonna happen? And then you're right. The ending was very oh, okay, this is a high school English story writing project.
It's over. It's done.
This is my grade 7 cat fantasy story.
Yeah,
this
Cat
is my
fan that had more depth than I guess this.
Ooh. I mean,
this is my wrong. GeoCities cat fiction. Yeah. Please enjoy it.
Yeah. No, that was very, very aggressive. No, I just wanted to say that. It sounded fun.
Mo, did you think that I actually pulled another Undertale on you, or another surprising, What Remains of Edith Finch on you?
I mean, I loved What Remains of Edith Finch. That was... But I thought once that rat was kind of telling me I don't understand what's going on, I'm like, we got something, boys. This is why Jacob picked the game.
Little did you know, it's not at all. So I think they hint throughout the whole story that there's a dog who's very sick, and that there's a doctor who, is trying to save his faithful companion, and this doctor is spending a lot of resources to ensure that his dog, who's very sick, stays alive. And as you move through the game and kind of get down into the underground laboratory and make it through tons of different enemies and crushers on the ceiling and even turrets and stuff swinging balls, you get to a final room where you face off against Mech Gary and then Human Gary, which is a rat inside of a human body?
I guess, yeah.
It's a human inside of a rat inside of a human.
Yeah, it's a human. It's the I guess the laboratory manager guy who's trying to save his dog. When you come down there, you realize he kidnapped your owner, who was still at the battleship where the game started, and he's like, I'm gonna put my dog's body. No, I'm gonna put my body inside of this guy, and I'm gonna put my dog's body inside of you. That way, we'll have vessels because this dog is dying and they need hosts. And this whole traversing and solving puzzles in the game was just to see if you were a worthy host to put a body in. So because you made it all the way down, it was okay, we got something. We got a vessel that we can use for living a better life, I guess.
And so the final boss is like a 2-stage boss where it's a real like Dr. Robotnik style boss battle where there's a big mech and he's just shooting down at you, and then the mech gets destroyed, which is like a UFO, and human Gary just gets out with a machine gun. And I don't know which one you felt was harder, but I almost felt like the human Gary fight was harder.
Yeah, I think it was because he was quicker and he had an actual machine gun kind of in front of him. He's like, let's do this the old-fashioned way. And I still think it was really funny that it was a guy with a machine gun shooting at a cat. That's if you just picture if that was a movie, how funny would that be? Just sit scurrying around I don't know. It was strange.
Sounds like a Tarantino movie.
Oh yes.
I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. The last 2 boss fights, or the 2-phase boss fight at the end, trash in my opinion. Just trash. Compared to what the second boss fight in the game had me stuck for 30 minutes, and then I felt like the difficulty went way down on the last guy compared to all the other fights earlier. I was like, dude, all I did was literally jump over him, shoot him from one side. He turned me, jumped over him, shot him from the other side. I thought it was so trivial, and I was like, this can't. I thought the whole time I was like, okay, it's clear they're gonna put the dog in a robot body, and I'm gonna have to fight his dog, and we're gonna have to. Nope, none of that. I was. Dang it, man. Kind of disappointed.
Jacob has a point about boss battles. He thinks they're they're not relevant or they're not good. What do you think about boss battles, Jacob?
So I think the final boss fights, I think I've said this on a previous podcast, where final boss fights are the hardest thing to do in video games because they're usually not very good, right? It's usually a bunch of things happen and then it's a video game, so instead of a villain just having a monologue and then being murdered, you have to play it out. I always go back to Arkham Asylum, and how that is one of the greatest games ever made with one of the worst final boss battles in video games, period, right?
Yeah.
Final boss battles are tough because they're usually bad. They usually don't pay off story-wise. And unfortunately, this game doesn't pay off, but I don't think that there's a build-up to pay off.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think they just need complexity. They need some kind of new mechanic or some new pattern that you have to overcome.
Like in Zelda? Something like that?
Yeah. Exactly, and also I feel like every single player that plays a game, their favorite boss may be something different. So you might get that one player who plays this game and you realize, oh, that was the best boss fight because it hit some kind of trigger in their brain that said this is the type of boss battles I like. Whereas other people are no, this one was garbage. I like boss number 2. That would have been a better final boss because his mechanic did X, X, and Y. I think that's why usually boss battles are not the best because how can you what's the blueprint for making the perfect boss fight? Is it too difficult? Is it multi-stage? You beat them down? What is it kind of? I think that's not a question that's answered.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a game like Cuphead did it so well, where you're finally fighting the devil, and I mean, even that final boss fight was too hard. You're right. Yeah. It's either going to be too hard, too easy, or I don't know. I feel like it takes a great developer to figure out the magic sauce when it comes to a boss fight. That's why I kind of prefer everything's falling apart levels where you're trying to escape or something, because it's kind of just high action, high intensity, and you don't have to worry about fighting one dude a million times before you see the end of the game.
So again, the end, the double phase boss battle, you beat him. Human Gary kind of is defeated, and you leave the fight with his dog Barkley. The dog's name is Barkley, and you just kind of leave, right? That's the end of the game.
Yeah, pretty much, because the dog kind of jumps in and gets angry because he doesn't recognize his owner, and then kind of becomes friends with you, and then you jump on a escape pod and just move on with your life, and it's you just leave your owner's dead vessel body by himself, and you're just all right, I'm just gonna move on with my life with this dog who's now my friend. Very simple, I guess. We have to release the game. Let's finish the story up, kind of.
But did you guys see the end spoiler kind, or I guess it's kind of a spoiler, the end kind of credits, almost like a post-credit scene with
the mouse is winking, or no?
Yeah, the mouse winks. And
tell us what happens.
So basically, obviously, we're on this ship now with the escaped dog and cat, and so you're thinking, okay, this is somewhat of an ending. I guess it's okay, right? But then I think was it when you? I think was it in the credits, or was this when you load the save back up? Yeah,
No,
maybe
not when
right
you load
after.
it back up. Yeah.
Maybe it's like right after where you get to like talk to the mouse or go nearby the mouse and like the mouse.
Oh wait,
like,
this
says
is new to
something.
me.
Oh,
Please explain.
Okay.
I don't. I thought you were talking
I
about
did
the...
boot the game back up because I saw somewhere like online, I looked it up, where you go and then like the mouse says something like "Good job, KiKi" or something along those lines, which leads people to believe that, which I mean, I guess it makes sense that your owner's body is, or your owner's consciousness is now in the rat that's on the ship with you guys, which you know, it's an even better ending than what you kind of end up with.
And this is post credits.
I think this is post credits.
Man, I gotta stop doing that. I literally, once I see writer name, I like Alt F4 and leave.
delete
man.
from PC. Easy.
See ya.
Yeah, I'm done. Like, you gave me credits. Like, I just gotta stop doing that because I've been burned with a couple of games we played on the pod where we'll be recording it and they're like, did you guys see what happened after the credits? And it's like, what? It's like, oh, there's another 10 minutes of the game. I'm like, wait, what? Like, who's playing games with me, man?
Imagine if this man Alt F forward after like Metal Gear Solid 4, where there's still 90 minutes of cutscenes after the final credits.
Man, I would have lived my whole life just going, yeah, I beat that game. Yeah, I know everything about it, man. Like,
nice.
It's like, no. Yeah.
And you would do it just like that too until someone walked up to you and said, do you remember the end of Metal Gear Solid 4?
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'd explain it. And it's like, no, what about this? I'm like, oh, that didn't happen. That's probably a different game. You're wrong, buddy. You're wrong.
Honestly, what you just described is literally my experience with listening to this podcast where I played Undertale and I beat it and I was like, oh, all right, that was good. And then I listened to your episode on Undertale and I was like, wait a second, what is all this that you guys are talking about? Underground Lab? What's happening here? Like, so it wasn't until like a year later that I realized there was like another extra 2 or so hours to the game. So yeah.
You're probably like, oh, that's just a Canadian release version. It's probably a translation or something wrong.
Oh man, they get all the good stuff.
Any final thoughts on Gato Roboto before I ask you guys a few more questions?
So riddle me this: the dog was released from his little chamber, hopped on the spaceship, and they dipped. Was the dog not sick at all? What's going on?
I'm
here?
saying that's what I was thinking.
He didn't need a host. He was fine.
Yeah. The other thing too, like, what's that one condition people get when they're like in space and they don't use their muscles for so long?
Muscle atrophy.
Muscle atrophy?
Atrophy, yeah. So I'm like, so this dog just is superhuman. He's been sitting in that jelly jar and just comes out, like, does chin-ups and does, like, lunges and just runs away. Like, what are you talking about? Like, same thing. Sickness and atrophy. Where are we?
So you're saying that the crime here or the sickness was an overbearing owner?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes.
I guess
He
so.
was just living his life.
I thought the moral of the story was like your owners are dumb and the animals are the smart ones. That's why they kind of teamed up and dipped out. But you know, the mouse on the ship makes things different.
I just realized we completely dismissed that it's a cat driving a robot suit, and we're complaining about the muscle atrophy and the sickness of the dog.
It's the little things that matter. It's the little things.
So you guys are saying you're all cat people, right?
Yeah, of course.
Team dog.
Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts about Gato Roboto? We'll start with Joseph.
Okay, so overall, I liked it. Like, I think the main thing you said earlier at the beginning of the show is like it doesn't overstay its welcome, which I really enjoyed. If it was any longer, I might have had some complaints, but because I knocked it out in 2 sittings, I thought it was fun, goofy. You know, it was fine. Wasn't too crazy. I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it. It's a short play, but definitely very light. A very light game, I would say.
Arsene? Yeah,
definitely had I had high hopes for this game, and I think it met my expectations. It didn't go like, above and beyond or anything like that. In terms of the ending, like I said, I did kind of like that little wink at the end and kind of finding out that your owner is, still with you as you continue your space journeys or whatnot. I do wish that I had played it in the smaller chunks like you did, Jacob, because I think I completely just ran through it one night, 3 hours, and it kind of by the end I was like, did I just play this game? Like, I felt like I was having a fever dream or something like that.
Is that it?
I knew it was short, but even then I was just like, what just happened? Like, I don't know what just happened in the past 3 hours of my life. I was lost. So I do wish that I had kind of broken it up at least a little bit, maybe 2-3 sessions of gameplay, maybe after each boss fight or something. I don't know, something like that. And I look forward to a Gato Roboto 2. Bring me back.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll give it my opinion for Mo. Yeah, this is like a very solid 8 kind of game for me. The art style's cute. If you're a cat owner, you're just gonna go oh the whole time because the cat is the only character that doesn't like talk. It just like gives these very audible meow the entire time, kind of like Gary in SpongeBob SquarePants. But it plays. It feels good. It looks great. You can play it in 10-minute sittings. It doesn't overstay its welcome. This is a great game for Switch. You might actually already own it in your Twitch Prime library. If you are a Twitch Prime subscriber, it was free in the month of December into January. I know that's how at least 2 of you guys got this game.
Yep.
So check your Twitch Prime library. You might have it. If so, give it a play, and I think you'll have fun with it. Mo, what do you think?
It was garbage, not worth my time. No. I have similar sentiment to you guys. I thought it was like a really good game. It'd be great on a Switch to just pick up once in a while and like trying to like bulldoze through it. You don't have to really remember the storyline that much. You won't be disconnected if you pick it up like a week since the last time you've played. I think just a solid mobile, I guess, style platformer that anyone can really enjoy because you just kind of jump with the cat. You have a rocket suit. There's some kind of story. Mechanics they're pretty well done. Definitely, I think I would recommend it too if someone had a Switch. For me, I wouldn't play it on like a PC or like buy it for a PC or anything, but that's just my personal preference. I'm not a huge fan of, I guess, an 8-bit game on my PC. But recommend it to anyone else who's looking for a good mobile game to kind of burn some time, or if you're transiting and just want something to kind of get the time passed. I think this is a great solution for you.
So I think you're saying it is a good Metroidvania game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say that.
My last question before we kind of close off the show is this is a good Metroidvania game, but this is a very common kind of game category. What I'd kind of like you guys to do is tell us about one other Metroidvania game that you really like, that if someone likes Gato Roboto, play it for 3 hours, love it, and want something new, they can kind of jump to that game next. We will start with Mo.
Yeah, I don't even know if it like is considered a Metroidvania game, but do you remember the game Braid that we played?
Oh yeah.
Just with like the time mechanic. The reason why I kind of recommend it, it's probably not even similar whatsoever because there's no like upgrades or anything like that. But for me, that's one of my favorite platformers, just because you're kind of playing with the concept of time, and it was just a completely unique like mechanic. I think that's a game I would recommend. We also put it on the podcast if you want to listen to that. You have that as well.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't, and I think I wouldn't call it like a Metroidvania game, but it is like a platformer where, like in this game, you're going to have to go back through certain sections to get the game completely finished. So I think it actually shares a lot in that respect. And like
also because I haven't really played much Metroidvania games, like I said, I'm not a platformer kind of guy. I don't enjoy them that frequently, so that's why it's the kind of the closest thing I could think of.
Cool. We will go to Arsene next.
Okay, guys. I don't know if you guys have heard of this little gem here, but I'm going to have to recommend Guacamelee.
Oh, we did it for the podcast.
Yes. Guacamelee, definitely one of my favorite Metroidvania games. I've played through both of them. I own, I think, 2 versions of the first one. Why? I don't know. I think it was in a Humble Bundle or something like that. But it's definitely, and I think did I beat him? Maybe I beat both versions that I own. But yeah, I definitely really enjoyed that game. I think, obviously the Metroidvania aspects are really fun. You get your certain power-ups when you go to different areas, and that one's definitely heavily Metroid inspired, even with like the way that you gain power-ups. I think the little statues are pretty much identical to the ones in the original like Metroid games. Yeah, if you enjoy Gato Roboto, you'll have a great time.
Joseph, we'll do you next.
Cool. So my favorite Metroidvania game is Sekiro. No, I'm just kidding. So I'd probably say my favorite Metroidvania game is Hollow Knight, just because that game is an absolute masterpiece.
It slaps.
I mean, yeah, besides the sometimes eerie and creepy enemy designs in the game, like it's relatively cute, but it is very challenging. A warning to everyone out there: if you played Gato Roboto I felt like Gato Roboto was that game where you're playing it, you're sitting back in your chair, and then you come across that mouse, and then you got to sit up. You know what I'm saying? When you really have to fight a hard boss, you got to sit up.
Lean forward,
Lean forward, yeah, exactly. Hollow Knight, you're leaning forward as soon as that game starts, bro. It's very hard. but it's just like has so much lore, such a beautiful game, and like it really makes you feel good once you beat it. So absolutely recommend that.
For me, I would probably go to Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yeah, man.
It is a game we played on the podcast, episode 55, and the definitive edition I think is also on Switch now, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct.
That game is beautiful. The soundtrack is just like serene and dope, and like getting the different power-ups and the jumping, and you might even like shed a tear at the end of it. It is super good, and the sequel is actually imminent. Like, it's coming out, I believe, in the next month. So
yeah,
if it
I'm
already
ready.
hasn't come out, it's coming out on Xbox Game Pass. You can get it day one as a part of Game Pass. Ori and the Blind Forest for me. But we've mentioned other Metroidvanias. We have played Shadow Complex on the podcast, episode 54, and we've also played Guacamelee, episode 21. So if you like Metroidvanias, there's more podcast episodes about it. We could go on and on. SteamWorld Dig, we could talk about tons more. But we will not talk about more. What we will talk about before we close the show, though, is about the Player podcast, which is the podcast that is hosted by Joseph and Arsene.
That's us.
Guys, give us your pitch about your podcast, because I have been a fan ever since Joseph and I met on Reddit about a year ago. So give us that pitch on your show.
Okay, so the Player podcast, I guess now that we've kind of switched up things on the show recently.
You just said that last week, right?
Exactly.
Or a couple weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we kind of switched up the format of things, and now it's kind of, I guess the best way to describe it is like the virtual water cooler podcast for video games, where...
We're changing the name.
Yeah, it's called the Virtual Water Cooler Podcast actually now. So basically, the idea is me and Arsene, we're good friends. We both are very into video games, like I'm sure everybody who's listening to this podcast is as well. And I'm going to each week bring a couple topics to the table. We're going to discuss them, decide how we feel about them. And we have this segment called Pass the Sticks, where I say, okay, how do you feel about Sonic? I'm saying pass the sticks on Sonic because we need to cancel it, whereas Arsene says, I'm a big fan. I mess with Sonic. We'll keep it around. And we'll just have those discussions just because, like, I feel like with me and Arsene, we're really in tune with video game news and stuff that's going on. But, people that, like, a couple of my buddies are like, hey, have you heard of Death Stranding? What do you think on that? I can really trust your review on that. Or, like, what do you think about this or that? So the show is now starting to become kind of like a round table where we talk about video game themes, news, stuff like that, and give our honest, casual opinions. And then Arsene always comes with some gems at the end of the show to close it out.
Yeah, I would definitely say that if you are listening to the show, it's the chemistry between the two of you guys is always super fun. You can tell that you're friends. You make fun of each other, and although you have trash opinions about Sonic,
I have trash opinions.
You have a good podcast. Yeah. If people want to listen to your show, where do you think the best place for them to start is?
Two episodes ago. Honestly, I always say the best episode is whatever episode we're dropping on Thursday, each Thursday at the beginning of the day, and drop at midnight. So honestly, jump in. We're not episodic, so feel free to listen to whatever the most recent episode was. And if you enjoyed it or if you have feedback, please reach out to us at PlayerPod on Twitter and give us feedback. We love both positive and constructive criticism
and hate mail too. Send us that.
Yeah, go ahead and send us some hate mail. Anything to fill the empty void in our hearts. You know what I mean?
Before we close off the show, just a few notes about the Left Behind Game Club. You can find all things Left Behind Game Club at leftbehindgame.club. You can find us on Twitter at Left Behind Club, on Instagram at Left Behind Game Club. And Mo, if people want to jump in and talk about the video games that they're playing, which maybe Gato Roboto, where's the best place to do that?
Well, if you go to our website, leftbehindgame.club, as Jacob just mentioned, we have a big giant button to join our Discord server, where we usually talk about deals, talk about the most recent game we just played or what we're thinking about playing. It's a nice little area where we kind of chat about that. Another thing we also have is a little donate button on our site. If you're feeling generous, feel free to drop us some change to help us pay for the hosting. But more importantly than that, we'd love for you to kind of get one other person to listen to the podcast. If you have a friend that's kind of looking for something or listens to it, give us a shout out. We'd love to have that more than anything.
Yeah, so you have 2 new podcasts. If you want to send out the Left Behind Game Club, yes. If you want to send out the Player podcast, you've got 2 new gaming podcasts to listen to. And just one more thing, if you are listening to us and you have not subscribed to the show, make sure that you subscribe to the Left Behind Game Club on whatever podcasting platform that you listen to us on. You find out about new episodes as they come out, and it helps us a lot. Gentlemen, we will start with our friends from the Player podcast. If folks want to find you, we'll start with Arsene. Where can they do so on the internet?
You can find me at LeekyLeek13, that's LeekyLeek 13 on Twitter, and you can just find me as at Arsene Lakpa on Instagram. That's pretty much it.
Joseph?
Yeah, I'm the Hoop Man on Twitter and Instagram, so TH3HOOPMAN on Twitter and Instagram. Just go ahead and send me a tweet, send me a DM.
You can find me on the internet at Jacob McCourt on all major social media platforms and at jacobmccourt.com. And Mo, where can the folks find you?
You can find me at Murtati on almost all social media platforms, and also in our Discord server chatting away with the crew. Jacob, take us home.
And that, my friends, is one less game left behind.